Hello students, welcome to class 9. Today I am going to take your history class, chapter 1, the Harappan Civilization. But before we begin, let us find out the meaning of civilization. The term civilization comes from the Latin word civilis, meaning civil. The word is related to civics, which means citizen or town people who are governed by the laws of their city. Civilization is a progressive phase of all-around development of people living within a given territory. It means growth in its economy, use of technology for raising the standard of living of the people. Religious and cultural progress also mark the characteristic of a civilized society. There is a rapid development as people start living in urban centers and become specialized in skills such as smelting of metals, seal making, and large-scale construction. They also have evolved method of writing and agriculture. The first civilized society began on the banks of rivers. The cities were larger, more populated, and more complex in their political, economic, and social structures. Harappan Civilization. The Indus Valley Civilization is also known as Harappan Civilization. It spread across the northwestern region of the Indian subcontinent, thriving particularly around the basin of River Indus, which gives this civilization its name. It is the largest known ancient urban civilization, about 12 times bigger than Egyptian and Mesopotamian civilization in terms of area. Sir John Marshall, who was the Director General of Archaeological Survey of India, led his team to discover the Harappan civilization. Dayaram Sahani, an Indian officer in the Archaeological Survey of India, dug and explored the ruins in Harappa in 1921. In 1922, Rakhal Das Banerjee, a team member, was informed by a Buddhist monk that there was a mound which needed to be excavated because he believed that it was a Buddhist stupa. While digging, Rakhal Das Banerjee came across unusual objects in the ruins. And this is how Mohenjo-daro, meaning the mound of dead, was discovered. Sources. The major sources of our information about the Harappan civilization are the following. The Great Bath. The Great Bath is one of the largest public buildings at Mohenjo-daro. It has a large rectangular tank in a courtyard surrounded by a corridor on all four sides. There are 2 flights of steps, one in the north and the other in the south, leading into the tank. To make the pool watertight, burnt bricks and mortar lined with bitumen and gypsum were used for construction. The water for the bath was provided by a well in an adjacent room. There was a stairway which led to an upper story. Some scholars believe that these rooms were provided for members of some kind of priesthood, whereas others think that the rooms were provided for changing clothes. The Great Bath is an important source of information that throws light on the life of the people and culture of Harappan civilization. The construction of the Great Bath indicates that art of building had reached a high degree of perfection at that time. Most of the scholars they agree that Great Bath might have been used for religious purposes. The massive structure points out that there might existed a ruling class that could mobilize labor, collect tax, and build such a huge structure for the public. The design of the Great Bath portrays the efficient planning in the structural features relating to water supply and sewage disposal. Citadel. The raised area of each city was called citadel. The citadel had the houses of the ruling and the important buildings like the great bath, the granary, the assembly hall, and the workshops. The presence of specific buildings and the houses of the ruling class indicate some sort of social classification. Seals. The Harappan seals are one of the most important archaeological sources that enable historians to reconstruct the past. The materials used in making the seals were mainly terracotta, steatite, and agate. The majority of these seals were rectangular, oblique, or square in shape. They were excavated in various areas within the Indus basin and have been found in other contemporary civilizations. The primary purpose of these seals were probably to mark the ownership of property. The seals are used for trade and commerce. They are significant because they give us an idea about their trading practices, physical features, dress, ornaments, and religion. They symbolize their trading contacts with the other civilizations. The presence of Harappan seals in Mesopotamian sites indicates that the Harappan people had trading relationship with the other contemporary civilizations. Some of the seals had letters engraved on them, which prove the existence of some script used by the Harappans for writing. Engravings for unicorns and humped bulls also appear on some of the seals, which not only indicate their artistic skill but also the fact that there was a practice of worshipping animals in their society. The Pashupati seal is considered to be the most important one. It shows a three-faced deity who is seated in a yogic posture with a horned headdress and is surrounded by animals. It is assumed one of the earliest depictions of Hindu god Shiva. Human figurines. The stone sculpture of a man with a beard was discovered from Mohenjo-daro. The statue had a shawl worn over the left shoulder and the eyes are half closed. Therefore, some scholars believe that this is a statue of Yogi, and this sculpture is of high artistic value and points out the existence of skilled artisans in the Harappan civilization. Another bronze statue of dancing girl is a masterpiece as it revealed the usage of bronze in art and sculpture. These figurines bear testimony to great artistic skills of the Harappan people. It enables us to learn about the kind of clothes they used to wear, jewelry they adorned themselves with, and the activities they pursued in their leisure. Lothal Dockyard. This dockyard was discovered at Lothal in Gujarat. It was the largest man-made dockyard during that time and was surrounded by a huge brick wall to protect the area against floods. It was connected by channels that led to Gulf of Cambay. It gave us an idea about the navigation activities that used to take place on the coast of Arabian Sea. Coupled with the discovery of Harappan seals in the sites of other contemporary river valley civilization, it throws light on the trading and commercial activities of Harappan people. Script. The Harappans used a script which is regarded as pictograph since its signs represent birds, fish, and varieties of human form. The number of signs of Harappan script is known to be between 375 and 400. The script is found inscribed on number of seals, copper tools, terracotta tablets, jewelry, and on ancient signboard. Extent of Harappan civilization. The center of Harappan civilization was in the Sindh and Punjab of undivided India. With them at the center, the civilization had spread outwards in all directions. The civilization covered the following areas of Indian subcontinent. In the west, South Balochistan at Suktajandar can be called its western border. In the east, Alamgir Pur in UP can be called its eastern border. In the north, it extended up to Manda in Jammu and Kashmir. In the south, it extended up to Bhagatraf in Narmada estuary of Gujarat. Harappan cities. The two most important Harappan cities are Harappa in Montgomery district of Punjab and Mohenjo-daro in Larkana district of Sindh. These two cities are linked by river Indus and hence the name of civilization is Indus Valley Civilization. The third city lies at Chanhudaro, about 130 km south of Mohenjo-daro. The fourth city is at Lothal in Gujarat, at the head of Gulf of Cambay. The fifth city lies at Kalibangan in the northern Rajasthan, and the sixth called Banwari, situated in the Hisar district in Haryana. Urban planning. The Harappan civilization's most important feature is its town planning. Each and every Indus city was divided into two parts: the citadel, the elevated area, and the lower town. The prominent buildings of the citadel were granary, the assembly hall, and the great bath. The cities both in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa were located on the river banks. The streets were aligned following a grid pattern. This is one of the most interesting characteristic of this civilization. The main streets, some are as wide as 30 feet, were laid out in accordance with the grid plan. These were some of the features of the cities. The streets were straight and intersected each other at right angles, divided the city into several larger rectangular blocks. Fire-burnt bricks were used for paving the streets. Street corners were rounded in order to make the movement of the heavy carts easier. There were channels of water supply drainage and granaries, paved bathrooms, and sewage. Such an advanced sewage system was one of the most distinguished features of the Harappan city. Each house had a courtyard, and kitchen were generally placed in a covered corner of the courtyard. The buildings were made of brick and wood. All the houses had a good ventilation system and spacious rooms with bathrooms. The doors and windows of the houses opened on the street side and not on the main road. Granaries. Granaries has been found at several sites: Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Lothal and Kalibangan. However, at Harappa there were 2 rows of 6 granaries each. To the south of the granary at Harappa, working floors consisting of rows of circular brick platforms were discovered. This means that these floors were meant for threshing grain, because wheat and barley grains were found in the floor. The location of Harappa near the river Ravi suggests that the food grains were brought to this place by boat. It was built on a raised platform to protect it from floods. The granary had a ventilation to prevent grains from damp. Trade practices of the Harappa. The Harappans had a highly developed trade system. They shared trade relations with other parts of India as well as many other countries. Trading activities were carried out both internally as well as externally. Harappa, Mohenjo-daro and Lothal, they were the centers for metallurgy. Lothal and Chanhudaro were places where beads were manufactured. External trade was carried on extensively. It is evident from Harappan artifacts and seals that have been unearthed in other parts of the world. Mesopotamian evidences indicate that trade relationships existed between them. Lothal was an important trading coastal town from where trade with Mesopotamia and other Western Asian cities were carried out. Gold was imported from Karnataka and Afghanistan. Copper was mainly imported from Rajasthan and South India. Evidences proved that barter system was the most popular method of trade. Weights and measures. Use of regulated weights of measures were prevalent as many stone weights were being discovered. Sets of stone weights were used for measurement of the Harappans. The smallest unit was 16, which was around 14 gram, and the larger weights were multiples of 16, like 32, 48, 64, 128, and so on. Transport. The model of terracotta ship was discovered at Lothal Dockyard. Lothal's dock is the world's earliest known dock. Boats were also used to ferry goods. For inland travel, bullock carts were the chief modes of transportation and communication. Arts and craft. The artistic skills of the Harappans are reflected in some of the pieces of art found in excavations such as stone statues, seals, and terracotta. Dancing girl. This statue shows a girl in a dancing posture with her right hand resting on her hip. The left arm is almost fully covered with a series of bangles made of ivory or bone. Her hair is neatly tied into a bun and head is slightly tilted backwards. This is a piece of art made of bronze through a special method known as lost wax process. In this process, the wax figure was first covered with a coating of clay. It is then heated and in turn melted the wax. The hollow which was thus created is now filled with the molten metal bronze which could the shape of the object. The bearded man. This stone sculpture shows a man with a trimmed beard, half-closed eyes, and with a shawl wrapped around his shoulders. This is assumed to be a figure representing a priest or a nobleman. Terracotta figurines. Harappa used fire-baked clay or terracotta to make toys and objects of worship. The terracotta figurine of Mother Goddess is a unique piece of sculpture. This large figurine from Mohenjo-daro is an excellent example of technical maturity that the Harappan artisans had acquired in clay molding and baking. The figure of Mother Goddess is adorned with necklaces, with cylindrical pendants and an elaborate headgear. The eyes are made up of 2 round pellets of clay. The recovery of a large number of Mother Goddess figurine suggests that Mother Goddess worship cult was widespread in the Indus Valley civilization. Occupation and livelihood of the Harappan people. The main occupation of the Harappan people was agriculture. Evidences suggest that it was a prosperous civilization. Hence, people had adequate time to engage into other activities like craft making. Some of the widely practiced art forms were metalwork. Metals such as copper, bronze were used to make vessels, ornaments, figurines, tools, and weapons. Beads and ornaments. Precious metals and stones were used to make beads, which were used in jewelry. Ornaments like necklaces, armlets, nose ring, headdress, and figurines were worn both by men and women. Other crafts, they included pottery making, spinning, carving, and weaving. Amusements. People of Harappa, they played games and had many other forms of entertainment. They played dice and went on hunting, fishing. Their main musical instruments were drum and lyre. Toys of birds, animals, figurines, carts, and whistles were also made. Religious practices of the Harappan people. Most evidences about the religious life of the Harappans come from the excavated seals, terracotta, and metal figurines. There are some of the forms that they worshipped. Worship of Mother Goddess. Mother Goddess was believed to represent the earth. Several terracotta figurines have been found in Harappan cities with her impression. Some of the figurines are smoke stained, which suggests that the people burnt incense sticks before the figures. They believed in Mother Goddess as a source of energy of creation. Worship of male deity. A horned three-faced deity who is seated in a posture of yogi with horned headdress and surrounded by animals: an elephant, a tiger, a buffalo, a rhinoceros, and 2 deer at his feet, is depicted in a seal. It is intended to be one of the earliest depictions of Hindu god Shiva. So the seal is also known as Pashupati seal. The Harappan people worship trees, animals, birds, and elements of nature such as fire and water. The most common animal found on these seal is the bull. They also worshipped unicorn and some form of naga or cobra. The peepal tree was regarded as a sacred tree. The Harappans believed in magic as indicated by the amulets found in the Harappan sites. It proves that they believed in existence of ghosts or other souls. Decline of the civilization. The Harappan civilization declined sometime around 800 BC. And some of the likely causes for the decline are natural calamities such as floods and earthquakes, the invasion by the Aryans and eventual destruction, deforestation of the areas that would have led to environmental imbalance. The wood was needed to produce bronze, jewelry, bake bricks, and make boards and furniture. It is perceived that some school of historian that this may be one of the reasons that led to the decline of civilization. Harappan culture has left us an indelible mark on the history of India. The specialized skills, architecture, structure, planning of the cities, art and craft, trade and practices are some of the distinct features of this civilization which sets it apart from other contemporary civilizations. The ingenuity of Harappan culture showed that we belong to an urban civilization which was unique in its time.